Welcome to the Heart of Money podcast, where we discuss the impact that money has on every area of your life and where you can learn to make smarter money decisions. Join our conversation as we discuss our past experiences, talk about how to make better money management choices, and in the end, make a commitment to being weird. Hey folks, welcome back to the Heart of Money, episode 75. I'm your host, Austin Black, joined by my co-host and a recent traveler to the Ramsey facility in Nashville, Mr. Bob Wessler. Bob, you just had an awesome trip. What happened? How'd it go?
Well, like you asked a little bit earlier, if in the money and marriage getaway, did I come away with more money and more marriage? I told you that I came away with less money and the same marriage. So both of those things, I guess, were good things. I learned some things that I wouldn't have otherwise, and went ahead and ponied up the money for next year to do it all over again. And so I guess I'll still be married this time next year to be able to go back. So maybe I was just pushing my luck on that one. I don't know, but we had a lot of fun, and I always joke about Kate being related to Uncle Dave, but I told her many times, please don't tackle Rachel in the the survey they sent out. It's the most time I've spent on any survey giving feedback. We went over it together. It was like a whole nother session for the getaway.
Oh, man.
Was that my wife is a self-proclaimed fangirl of Rachel's, and that I many times over said, please don't tackle her. Just get your picture with her. Don't knock her out. Don't.
So the real question is, how many
selfies
selfies does she have ever?
Other than the pictures they took, supposedly we ended up on Rachel's Instagram feed multiple times, and one of Kate's friends said that it was like Where's Waldo, but it was Where's Bob and Kate at Ramsey, because we somehow just kept ending up in these pictures, and it was humorous on
That's
many
funny.
accounts. But at one point on the last night, we got to go out to the barn. I didn't have to get clearance. I did ask if I could talk about the barn because it was a brand new retreat center that they have. We got to talk to Rachel. We got to talk to John Deloney. Jade and George were both there. So we got to speak to each of them for a little bit of time. And I guess Kate has her Better Than I Deserve shirt. So they all got to sign the shirt, and Kate wanted Rachel to sign her book. Well, when Kate opened, I'm not sure if Kate or Rachel opened the book, but there was stuff inside the front of the book, and that included cash. And Kate was so embarrassed by the fact that there was all this cash in there that started falling out. And Rachel made a joke of it and said, it's a Ramsey book. You open the book and money just falls out everywhere. They were ones, they weren't 20s. That was kind of one of the things that, had they been larger bills, it would have been a funnier story. But still, it was cash, and Kate was she was so embarrassed. She's like, I forgot it was in there. But
That's funny.
Yep. We had a lot of fun.
And now it's been globally proclaimed that happened, so she's be even more embarrassed probably.
Yeah. And maybe one of our podcasts, George did ask what the name of our podcast was, and he appreciated that we were doing it, and we've done it for a while now. And so maybe George might just come on the show. He might listen to us, go, wow, these guys don't know what they're talking about. Or he may be like, man, they should be the next Ramsey personalities. That'd be crazy too. But who knows? Maybe we can get a cameo by George one of these times, because he can just call in and we can have a 3-way conversation about who knows what. Probably about budgeting, because that's what we do and that's what he does. So we'll see.
Sounds like a fun trip, and I am kind of jealous that I did not get to experience that. But maybe next year we can go with you guys and splurge on the platinum and have all the same fun and come back with the same marriage and maybe a little bit more money if we can, plan it out right.
Yeah. I will let you know that they opened it up for attendees the Saturday that we were there, and we're like, okay, we did platinum. It was worth it. By the way, if any of our listeners ever think about doing a Ramsey event where you go to Nashville, pay for the platinum, because Dave does it upright. And even if it's not Dave, he's got a staff that, I mean, they bend over backwards for the stuff that they put out there. It's one thing to attend an event. It's another thing to have interactions. It's that next level up, and it was a lot of fun. But I believe tickets will go on sale for anybody that did not attend. I think, will start announcing that in February. My guess is that when that is rolled out, you need to get your tickets pretty quick, because they go pretty fast. I think they had 1,000 people. The auditorium will fit 2,400. It's there at the Ramsey Event Center. And I guess between the two of us, we've seen it go up in stages. I saw a dirt mound in a picture, and you saw the markings for what they were going to do. And I got to see that what they had in the picture is exactly what it looked like. And it was a very nice facility. Sits up there on the top of the hill, and you can see a lot of Nashville or a lot of Franklin from there. So, and it didn't feel like we were out in the middle of nowhere this time. That first time for enrichment, we were at a church, 2 exits up, maybe 1 exit up. And the last night we went to the headquarters and went to an event. It was the first time they had a public event, not just team members. And you come off this main road and you go south, and it's pitch black. And then you turn on another road, and you've got about 4 roundabouts, and it's dark and there's nothing. You're like, are we in the right place? Or do we know where we're going? And all of a sudden, here's this Ramsey building that pops out at you. But it was one of those where, like, this is weird. And this time they had painted lines. They had street lamps. When you went, I guess you went during the day, so I don't know what your experience was, but it's like, it seems like a completely different area this time than it did 2 years ago.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's definitely, you feel like you're away from everything, but you're surrounded by Ramsey facilities pretty much.
Yeah, you feel like you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you top the hill, and there's I-65 right on the other side. And so it's not like you were out in the middle of nowhere. You just were going around roundabouts one after another, right. Half mile away from the road, and you couldn't see it.
Fun times, good memories, and a lot of laughter, sound like, for sure. So that's cool. Well, I know we're kind of coming off our last episode, talking about mindset, and as we said last time, that is such a reoccurring theme. We could probably make the entire podcast centered around that and talk for days on it. But we're going to start a little mini series here on different levels of mindset and really why it matters. Kind of coming from every angle of financial stability or experiences. We've, or at least I have kind of realized that there seems to be like 3 main levels or areas of your journey with finances, or at least there can be. I mean, not everyone's going to go through all 3 levels, but it seems like, there's three levels that people could go through. So, we're going to the next 3 episodes to kind of talk through those different areas, and focus on what mindset needs to be to succeed and to get through each one of those to the very end. So the first one is obviously the very beginning, right? Where sometimes people are just broke. They're in a spot of, financial instability or lack of financial security. And that can be in a variety of ways, right? Whether they just don't have the income to accomplish, a lot, whether they are dealing with a massive amount of debt, whether they are just not managing well and feel like they are broke because their spending is exceeding their income. There's a variety of scenarios that can turn into. The reality is that whenever you're broke, you think differently, you react differently, and your mindset is different. than whenever you are accomplishing financial success or you're better off. So I think we kind of got to start there and speak to that area, because if you are in that spot, you can stay in that spot if you don't change your mindset, and you can kind of continue that. Um, so that's kind of where we're probably need to start the conversation. What's your initial thoughts in terms of what you're thinking about whenever you're broke, or what you should be thinking about when you're broke in order to get out of that scenario?
Well, I was initially thinking you've got 3 stages. I'm thinking there could be a fourth, but I'm thinking maybe there are 3 stages to the broke part. There's the status quo of broke. There's the
Mm-hmm.
I'm making my way out of it broke, and there's the desperation broke. And
Yeah.
there's kind of a different feel for each one of those, where desperation is you're just in survival mode. Your brain is not thinking about what you're doing beyond getting a roof over your head, making sure you've got running water and heat, getting food on a table. That's your lowest of low, where you've got to find something other than how I'm going to make it through the day.
Mm-hmm.
The status quo of I'm broke, I know it, this is just the way it is. And then there's the broke, I'm owning this and I'm moving forward and getting out of it. So not to train wreck your whole 3 levels there, I created 3 more. So maybe we've got 3 levels that turn into 9 when we get through
Right.
it. But I think on the low end, on the broke end, you're going to have people in 3 different mindsets based on where they're at and what their mentality is.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I wonder if you continue those, for lack of a better word, lifestyles of whether it's spending more than you're making, or just being you're not satisfied, but being just staying in that area, and not trying to get out. Just kind of, I feel like at some point you're going to end up in that desperate spot. It may take you longer, but if you want anything out of life, I mean, you cannot continue spending more than you make and have that consumption lifestyle without getting to the point where you want something, you're tired of that and you want to be out of that.
Yeah.
So to your point, yeah, there's definitely each of those areas comes with its own mental challenges and struggles and objectives, goals and desires. I think if we were to dig down to the core of it, they all have some level of fear, some level of anxiety, some level of concern. Maybe not the desperation as much, but there's like well, can this not get any better, or why is this going on? There's this search for a better way. Even if you don't believe that it's actually possible, you still kind of wonder. I think there's sometimes people will they will be assuming that's never going to change, but then they see someone else who isn't like that, so then they assume that it's just them that can never change, right? There's kind of positioning himself into, I don't want to say that victim mindset, but this is just the way it is for me.
Yeah, and I would say that of the broke level, the subsets, somebody could be in any one of those 3 on a given day. Probably not the same day, but if they have a setback, they could hit desperation pretty quick. If they're having a good day and they're saying, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm moving on, we get a plan, day by day, I think that is probably a good way to put it with somebody who is in the broke aspect, that some want to get out of it, but they're going to have setbacks. Some don't know better, and maybe they don't get anywhere other than They don't know better, and this is just the way it is. So they don't experience that I'm moving on or I'm in desperation. My guess would be that they're more likely to fall to the desperation side than they would to the moving on side from status quo.
Yeah.
And I'm going to interject more on one of the first thoughts that I had when you talked about being able to get up out of the hole is getting away from the credit cards and not using the credit cards. That desperation will just get worse in a situation where you're paying 25 to 33% more for each item that you purchased. And that is desperation. Oh my gosh, I bought something for $10. Now it's costing me $14, and now it's costing me $25 because I didn't pay it off, because I paid the minimum payment because that's what I'm scraping by on.
Right.
But I'm buying more and I can't catch up. So the whole broke aspect, quit using the credit card and move forward when you're ready to do it. Once you get to the point, kind of like we've talked about before with your grocery store aisle, I'm not doing this anymore. I continue to bring that up because we have these mindset conversations that is the defining moment where you move from one area to the next, or you start moving from one area to the next. Because without that, you're going to be status quo.
Yeah. I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because that's really where I was wanting to kind of go with this whole thing anyway. That pivotal moment of, you've got to make the decision to change. And it is willpower, but it's not all willpower. You can't force it to happen, but it has to be something that you make the decision to happen. So there is willpower there, but just like anything in life, you can't just enact it if you don't have the mental desire and the mental grit and pursuit to make that happen. So that mindset shift has to take place for that to be effective. And that's really where I wanted to go with this was, whenever you're in that spot, your mindset is not at all thinking about investing or retirement or financial success. It's not even thinking of how am I going to manage, my money. It's thinking about how am I going to survive to tomorrow or to next week or the next paycheck, whatever that case looks like. But what it can't do is focus on, I'm never going to get out of this. This is never going to change. I'm just always going to be in this spot. That is the shift that has to happen. And I think whenever you're broke, whatever capacity that is, to get out of that, to have that pursuit, your mindset has to focus on the hope, the opportunity, the minute level of desire that you possess to do something better. And when Dave talked about it so many times, that if there's no hope, there's no passion, there's no motivation, there's no interest in it. But if you've got the smallest amount of expectation and desire to change, that's where it all starts.
Yeah, you have to be in a position where you say something has to change. Then you go from not knowing what to do to trying to figure out what to do, to making some sort of change. I read in a book, and I think it's Andy Andrews, and use his historical fiction. And one of the comments was, when you're stuck and you don't know what to do, you have to do something. Something will get you somewhere that you aren't today. It might not go in the right direction. You might do some stumbling, but you'll know better shortly thereafter, hopefully, that you did something, that something didn't work, so we need to try something else. And that's a big part of, in my coaching, that you start a process and you look at, okay, what can we do? What can we affect? What can we change? And you come back a few weeks later and say, how did it go? Are you going down the path you wanted to? If not, what do we need to change about it? Do we keep this up? Do we do something different? And so it's baby steps. Not even using the terminology of the Ramsey baby steps. It's just making that minute move, that minute change to see where it leads you, if it's putting you in the right direction, and getting the right people around you, knowing, and that's one of the first things, even knowing where to go to get the information you need to figure out how to start down a path.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I've talked a lot about with my clients too, is you will see more drastic change over time if you take very small measures today, and if you focus on one thing, and if you tried to accomplish that 1% improvement or take that one step, continued movement always gets you farther than just sitting still. Because if you're sitting still, you're actually going backwards because someone else is getting ahead. So you're always be farther and farther and farther behind because you're not just making forward progress. And it's interesting because you look at what someone who is broke, what they're thinking about. It's more times than not, it's, man, this sucks. This isn't any fun. I hate this. This is how I'm going to live the rest of my life. This sucks. This isn't fun. It's the same cycle over and over and over.
Yeah.
But someone who is focused on achieving some level of financial security when they're broke, what they're thinking about is, this sucks, but I know it's going to get better. Man, this is hard, but I can do it.
It's
Golly,
no fun.
I don't know how. Yeah, this is not easy. This is not fun, but I know if I keep trying, something new is going to take place. And just that little grain of energy, and there's really not any excitement there, but there is this there's this dream. There's this hope. There's this idea of something will change and we will get better. I don't know how, I don't know when, and I don't know what it's going to take, but I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen somehow, some way, someday. And I think people will be utterly amazed at how much change can happen when that's your thought process. Because as soon as you start thinking like that, even if you don't know how, when, and where, all of a sudden those begin to reveal themselves because you're looking for them, and you're trying to find that, and you're focused on what is that next step going to look like. It's not revealed right away, but you have that perception.
Yeah, it's not a Pollyanna-ish way of looking at it's gonna get better. It's, I'm making the decisions to make improvement, and I have a direction. It's not just pie in the sky. Exactly. Oh, things will get better, because they will. It's no, I'm making the decision, getting out of the victim mentality, that I'm going to do better. I'm going to pursue this path. I'm going to go back on something that you said a minute ago as far as the 1% improvement. And I was thinking about Atomic Habits already, but by doing nothing, somebody else gets ahead. It's not about anybody else. It's about what you're doing and your direction. There's always going to be somebody in a better position than you are. There's always going to be somebody in a much worse position than you are. The last thing you need to think is, I'm the only one going through this.
Yeah.
That is not the case any way, shape, or form. But your comment about it's not looking like anything yet, I don't know how this is proceeding. I don't know how it's getting better. One of the things that James said in Atomic Habits was, ice changes form at 32 degrees. At 15 degrees, from an analogy standpoint, it's cold. You're not going to see that ice cube melt. At 27 degrees, you're not seeing that ice cube melt. But as you keep moving the dial closer and closer to 32, you hit 32 and that ice is going to change a little bit. You hit 33, that ice is going to start melting. So it's not all the work that you're doing. There is a point where a change actually makes. And so you just have to keep at it until you get to a point of change that's either positive or negative. And like I said, you either have the effect of a positive change and you keep moving forward, or you have a negative issue, a negative incident that says, nope, I need to redirect. I need to do something different.
Yeah. That's probably one of my favorite story, or it's not a story, but my favorite analogies out of his book, because it gives such clear perspective to the gradual, and gradual is even a vague term for this. It gives light to the microscopic changes that take place along the way. And even to me, even more unique outside of the, at 32 degrees is when it takes place. 33 degrees isn't melting. 34 degrees isn't hot. 35 degrees, there's still some ice there because it's taking a while to actually get to the, the full water state. So even though 32 degrees is considered the freezing point, above or below, just because you get there doesn't mean it's all going to change right away. It's continual. And that's something that I think, in my mind, gives a tremendous amount of hope to someone who is in this mindset of being broke, or battling the broke mindset, trying to come out of that, trying to get forward thinking. Just because you get to the point of, okay, I know I can do it, doesn't mean you're always going to have the answers. But that point is the 32 degree mark, right? That's when change starts to happen. That's when you begin to resolve and to improve and to emulate and to transform into that new stage, because you finally hit the mark of, okay, the transformation has taken place. I've hit 32 degrees. My mind knows it will happen. Now it's progressing to making that a reality.
Yeah. And in your thought process of mindsets, the little engine that could is chugging through my head all of a sudden of, I think I can, forward progress to the point that you are, I know I can, to a point of, I'm doing it. I've done it. I did it. I can do it again. Not necessarily do I want to do it again, but I know how to do it. I know how to keep from doing it. And I know that I can help others.
Yep. And I think that's a perfect break to go into our next piece on that, because that's exactly the thought process that it takes to come out of being broke and going into your comfort. So I think we kind of wrap it there. It's something that a lot of people, they're going to struggle with. They're going to fight and to battle, and not that any of these levels are easy, but I feel like once you have hit that point on the broke level of your mindset makes that initial shift, my opinion, that's the hardest spot to get to. I mean, not the hardest spot to manage throughout, but that's the hardest spot to get to, because that point changes the way that you think from here on out. You transform into that new person with a new mindset, and the future changes because of that.
Right.
All right, man. I'm excited for next episode. It's going to be great to get into the fun parts of it and talk about the mindset that happens whenever you are paying off debt, but you're achieving the financial security, you're achieving momentum and what it takes to accomplish that. So that'll be our next episode. Look forward to
Yep. And we'll keep chugging along.
it. Exactly.